Alright, so I'm doing my 5x5 for my favorite games throughout my life. Make sure to note as well here that this is not in order by any means. So just my favorite games throughout time in no particular order. So let's start off with the oldest game. That's one of my favorites. It's Pokemon Leaf Green. This is a Gen 1 remake, obviously not the initial Gen 1 games, Red and Green, and Blue of course, or Yellow. Gen 1, a gen that I really like, especially watching the anime, very nostalgic. I think everyone is nostalgic for Gen 1, even if they don't really know much about Pokemon, so, that kind of helps. So why is it Leaf Green over Fire Red? Mainly because I've grown to really like Pinsir, which you can't acquire in Fire Red. Otherwise, it would have been Fire Red. It had been Fire Red. It would have been Fire Red a couple of years back, but now Leaf Green would be my preferred choice. So I've switched it up into Leaf Green now. So there we go. That's our first Pokemon game. I should mention I played this one in retrospect later on in life. I was 2 years old when this game came out, so I didn't exactly play it then, and we didn't have it laying around or anything like that either. So this one is not a childhood pick. This is nostalgia for the Pokemon gen, but actually playing the game was later on in life. One that I did play, however, being younger, is Gen 4 Pokemon Platinum, which I've put here instead of Pearl. Pearl was the actual one that I played initially when I was younger, but I played Platinum later on, and that's essentially an upgraded version, so I'm just gonna put Platinum here, but you could imagine Pearl being there too. Just Platinum is the better version, and it has Giratina on the cover, which I prefer over Palkia as well. So yeah, this is one that I actually did play on the DS whilst I was younger. This game came out in 2008. I think Pearl would have come out in 2006, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, the Gen 4, that's my gen. When you look at the gen that I grew up with, it was Gen 4. Gen 5, that's what I consider to be like post. That came out after I'd already got into Pokemon, right? So if you want Gen 1 to 4, that was my initial view this is Pokemon. And Gen 4 was my favorite, and then Gen 1 my second, right? So that's why those two are in there. And then I should also add Pokemon Battle Revolution. This game, this was a game on the Wii. I should mention as well, Leaf Green, that was on the Game Boy Advance, which I never owned. And then Pokemon Battle Revolution, that was a game on the Wii where basically I think it was Gen 3 and Gen 4 games that you owned, included the Gen 2 remake. You could put them into your game via, connecting to your Wii, right? So the point is what I did anyways, was play Pokemon Pearl and then put my Pokemon from Pokemon Pearl into Pokemon Battle Revolution, connecting with the DS to the Wii. So that was that game. It was a 3D fighter, right? A 3D version of Pokemon. Didn't really have much of a story mode or anything, but in order to complete the game, you had to beat like multiple Colosseums or whatever in the game. It was very difficult to do without inserting your Pokemon from a DS game or whatever game you could transport from or transfer from rather. So yeah, I did that, and that's how we won the game. I really enjoyed the 3D part of that game. I think actually it doesn't look too bad when comparing to how the Pokemon Switch games look like. So yeah, I think it's very good for its time, and I found 3D Pokemon really cool at the time as well. 2D Pokemon when I was younger, I wasn't actually that interested in, and I'm much more interested in it nowadays compared to then. So especially Battle Revolution, that was my main thing when I was younger. That was my Pokemon game. That's the one I enjoyed the most, and it's the reason I played Pokemon Pearl in the first place. Was actually just to play Pokemon Battle Revolution. A little bit backwards for most people, but that's how I did it. And then let's move over to outside of Pokemon. No more Pokemon games for me. Beautiful Joe Red Hot Rumble. That's what it was called. Red Hot Rumble. Red Hot Rumble. Okay, I don't really know too much about this game. Released apparently in 2005. This game, it was a game on the PSP that I played. It was a bit of a not a battle royale. I don't know what you call this type of game, but you had basically different sections. You had like round one, it was you and a couple other AIs. Let's say 4 other AIs, 3 other AIs. I think it might have been more even. And you play each round, and eventually, you know, one person gets eliminated until there's like only 2 people left, or whatever, something like that, and then you win at the end. It was that kind of thing, but yeah, I found it really fun. Apparently, I think there's an anime of this, or a cartoon if you refer to anime aimed at younger people as cartoons. If you want to do that, sure. But yeah, I don't really remember too much about this. I just had a good time playing that game. I thought it was fun. It was very different to what I was used to. Not sure if there's many other games like it that ever existed. You know, look it up yourself if you want to find out. I don't really know, but it was a unique experience for me when I was playing it. But I can't really talk about it too much, to be honest. I don't know much about it in detail. So yeah, I never watched the show about it either. So yeah. There we go, I guess. Next up. Shadow the Hedgehog, which is the only Sonic franchise game I have on here, actually. Ironically enough, I don't think I ever finished this game. But it was the one I enjoyed the most. I've actually finished, I believe, Sonic Unleashed it was called. But although I enjoyed the day stages a lot, I didn't enjoy the night stages by the end of the game that much. So that's why I put Shadow here. A lot of the Sonic games I would actually kind of fail at because of how young I was and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't think I ever finished Shadow the Hedgehog. I got this one, I don't know, on the Wii or something, like maybe the PS3, something like that. Maybe something along those lines. I played this game on. But yeah, I don't really remember much about it. Apparently, it wasn't really a good game, but the cutscenes were really cool. I think we can all agree on that. Some of the music was really good, as it usually is with these games. And Shadow, I was such a big fan of at the time. You could kind of imagine as well with kind of the things that I really liked when I was younger. You know, Giratina, Shadow the Hedgehog, Itachi, Darth Maul in Star Wars. You know, is a lot of like black and red theme that I enjoyed a lot. Not as much as probably black and purple, to be honest, but there wasn't that much of that kind of those colors in media. So black and red was yeah, one of my biggest color themes I enjoyed in media, right? So yeah, there we go. There's my Sonic entry, my only one. Next up, we've got Tekken. I should mention, Shadow the Hedgehog came out 2005. Tekken, or as you will, Tekken 5, and it was this one, Dark Resurrection. Slightly different version, apparently. Yeah, I had this game on the PSP. This is my 2D fighter game that I played the most, probably. Yeah, I played a fair bit of 2D fighters when I was younger. This was probably my favorite. Yeah, I just thought it was the coolest. Had a lot of cool animations, that kind of stuff. Don't really have much to say about it. I enjoyed some of the story modes that came into the game later on, but it wasn't during Tekken 5. There's an anime on this as well, by the way, if you're interested in on Netflix. Full CGI though, I think, or something along those lines. It wasn't normal 2D, I'll put it that way. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed Tekken. I enjoyed Tekken. That was the 2D fighter I played the most. by 2D, I mean, you know, it's like a side view. I don't think it's full 2D. The art, I mean, it's just the way you fight is 2D. Okay, next up is Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Tag Force. This game, I also played on a PSP. I really loved Yu-Gi-Oh! When I was younger, and this is one of the ways I learned how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! It was a little bit of a weird game because it was almost a bit of a dating simulator. Not actually, but it kind of felt a little bit like that playing the game. But yeah, it was all about tag dueling and that kind of stuff. A lot of dueling. Maybe this game was a little bit too long, to be honest, a little bit too repetitive, but I had a fun time playing it. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was my favorite part of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it was the one that I grew up with, right? So, and that's kind of your consistency. You'll see something like that consistently. It's things that you know, I'm growing up with. I enjoy the most, and that's the case for most people probably, nostalgia-wise. But yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. I loved GX. Watched the show, loved the show when I was younger, and yeah, loved the game. Loved the game. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Games aren't really that good, so this is the only entry that I'll include here. Next up, a very niche pick, a very, very, very niche pick, is Dark Kingdom.
My loyal Dragon Shade, long have we anticipated your return.
Your Majesty, what has happened here? Durith has not been invaded, yet villages burned.
The commoners are the king's property, to do with as we see fit.
Even to murder?
Are you questioning the king's rule, Commander? Then your death warrant is signed. Soldiers, kill them!
And this was a game I played on the PS3, co-op with my brother. Not a really known game, but this was like an RPG game. You know, you chose a class and you played through the story, right? It was that simple. I really enjoyed it. You know, tried a bunch of different classes and had a bunch of different runs because we failed a couple times, let's say, or we would get bored and then we would play it again and say, well, we didn't really know what was going on during our save, so we would just restart instead of continuing. So yeah, but it's definitely one where we tried on multiple occasions, and that was testament to how much fun I had at the time, right? Even though I didn't finish them. Finish the game, you could say that it wasn't the best of the best, but I kept coming back to it, and eventually finished it. You know, at some point during some run, we did actually finish it. So yeah, that's definitely a game that I look back at fondly. By the way, Tag Force and Dark Kingdom both 2006, both as well as Wii Sports. Just the normal one, never played any of the other ones. So yeah, Wii Sports on the Wii, again, 2006. I played the bowling a lot, the tennis and the baseball, a fair amount as well, but especially the bowling. I played that a lot. So yeah, I have to include that. Pretty simple pick. I think a lot of people would have this on there, so yeah. And then next, 2007.
It will not last long without support. It's on the way.
He is the last Lombax, searching for clues to his past.
If I can find it here, there we go. Played this on the PS3. I really enjoyed it. Just a story mode game. You could choose what kind of guns you were using throughout the game. But yeah, you're not really changing roles, if you will. But definitely had a lot of unique experiences playing the game with the different kind of guns you could use, and you could use Clank as well, depending on what section of the game. A lot of planets to explore. So even though it's not an open world game necessarily, it did have open world elements. It really felt like I was exploring a world, and I wasn't just limited to one style of playing the game, if that makes sense. You were given a bit of freedom, and that's something I really enjoyed as well, is having a bit of freedom as to how I'm gonna play the game. So open world things in games I always really enjoyed. You have that in the Pokemon games a bit, not entirely. You could roam freely, but you still had a main story to follow, so there was a bit of, you know, narrow a bit of a narrow style there. What else do we have that you could really roam around, if you will? Tag Force, you had a lot of that. You could kind of play however you wanted. And yeah, I guess not really many of the other games. They were kind of more narrow. Then we have... Lego games. Okay, Lego games. My first one, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga. This is probably my most played Lego game all time, I want to say. And it's Star Wars, all 6 original films. I say original, 3 of them were the prequels that came after, but yeah, again, these were the 6 films that I was aware of when I was growing up. So this is for me the real Star Wars. It's these 6, and it's all in one game. So that was really cool, and I loved Star Wars when I was younger as well. And this is kind of at least for the sequels, or not the sequels, sorry, the originals, the 3 originals, this is how I learned their stories, because I had watched the 3 prequels before on film, but not the originals, and through this game I actually learned what happened in the story roughly, so that's kind of a fun fact for you. Okay, next up, bit of an odd choice.
Lego Indiana Jones 2, The Adventure Continues.
Lego Indiana Jones, the second one. Not the first one. The first one is quite popular, but the second wasn't as popular. The reason this one I enjoyed so much, again, I think it included more films in its game than the first one. As well, the fact that you kind of, when you went into a level, they presented it rather, as like a Lego set. You would go into a Lego set, and that would be the level, so to speak. And then when you go into the level, that would represent the whole film. And then within that film and that level, you would then have to roam around in a bit of an open world section. And then in different sections, you could then play different missions, if that made sense. So yeah, it was kind of free roamy again, where you just had to go to a specific location within that movie's level, if you will, to then actually play a specific part of that movie and play the level for that specific part. Bit of a confusing explanation there, but point is, it had a lot of freedom, it had a lot of stuff going on, so I really enjoyed that part of the game. Then next up,
traversing the reaches of space and time, 4 explorers brought together in their search for a unique and precious element. Together they roamed the darkest corners of the universe until one fateful day they arrived at a most unusual world, the fabled planet Crooks. Detecting a powerful source of energy, the 4 explorers were jubilant. They had finally found what they were looking for. They quickly descended upon an ancient temple, a relic of the mythical first builders. Inside was the Imagination Nexus, the long-lost source of pure imagination. Legend told that the Imagination Nexus contained the power to bring any idea to life. Awed by the possibilities, the explorers dreamt of their most desired creations. But one amongst them was more chaotic in thought and imagined something very different indeed. His foolhardy attempt to control creation through destruction merely created chaos, and creatures of chaos have no master. Corrupted, the Imagination Nexus mutated into a powerful, destructive maelstrom. The remaining explorers were forced to battle for their lives. Shaken to its core and unable to contain such an immense and chaotic power, Planet Crooks exploded into countless smaller worlds. The explorers thought the Imagination Nexus lost forever. But imagination is very difficult to extinguish. Realizing they needed to restore the Imagination Nexus and protect the universe, the explorers sent out a signal. A call to all minifigures to use their creative powers and save imagination. That's where your story begins.
A bit of an unusual LEGO game, LEGO Universe. This was a game that ran for what, 2 years or something? 2.5, I want to say, 2.5 years, as an MMO. A LEGO Universe. LEGO Universe was an MMO. Came out in 2010 apparently. Indiana Jones 2009, by the way, the second one. But yeah, LEGO Universe, it was an MMO, so again, freedom, right? A lot of freedom. This was, I believe, the first proper MMO that I played. So I enjoyed that thoroughly. Fortunately, my laptop kind of had a lot of issues at the time, so I don't know, something was broken about the game. But fans have made it possible to play this game again. So I've been playing it again recently, and I've been having a lot of fun, I'm not going to lie. So, you know. If I had to talk about one favorite game all time, I think it honestly might be this one. Funnily enough, it's also at the center of the list here. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. You had a lot of choices of what classes you want to go. I think there's 4 factions, right? And then within those factions, you've got different classes, and there's even different routes you can go where you not really utilize a class. You know, you can have different stuff like a Ninjago kind of setup. Build rather, Ninjago build on your character, because Ninjago was starting up during the running of LEGO Universe, so they properly used Ninjago as one of the core elements of this game. It had a full like part into the game where in the story Ninjago completely incorporated, and you can use like Spinjitzu and stuff in the game. It's not the main component, but it has been incorporated, is that a word, into the story and into the gameplay. Which I think is really cool as well for people that like Ninjago as well. Anyways, let's move over to our next one, 2008, Spore.
Not long ago, it was cold and dark. So what happened? Someone made a decision. Someone looked at a microbe and thought he could use a longer flagella and a pair of pinchers too. Yeah. Next thing you know, he's king of the ocean. Then someone decided he should hit the beach. Land creatures were born, but life on land is a dicey proposition. So someone looked at our hero and said he needs to be able to defend himself. And voila! As the saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, eat 'em.
2008, this game came out. Yeah, this is one of those games that I actually watched a lot before actually being able to play it myself. And a lot of time you see that happen, and when you actually get the game, you don't really play it that much, or you never even get the game in the first place. But with this one, even though I watched it so much, I actually ended up playing it quite a lot as well, which I think is testament to how much of a fan I was with this game. Another game where you had a lot of freedom. Obviously you had evolution, right? So, you know, you wouldn't really play in the same stage. You would start as a little fish and then grow up, be a bigger creature, and then start a civilization, right? That was kind of how the game worked, is you had to constantly evolve, which I think is really cool. But you had a lot of freedom as well around the game, especially in that second stage, the creature stage. You could just roam around wherever you wanted. So yeah, a lot of freedom with this game. I think it's really cool. And to be honest, I think has there even been a game like this since then, like properly? I feel like there would have been more hype around it, though. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the biggest, you know, up-to-date man on what's happening with the gaming you know, sphere, if you will. So I don't know, Spore, to me, very unique game and very popular as well for its time. Yeah, it was I think it was very good, very cool game. Then next, you could also be very creative, by the way, in that game. You could make some really cool creatures. So yeah, that was very cool too. Anyways, next up, a anime game, Naruto Storm 1. First one, probably. That was the first one I played. with the original Naruto, and to be honest, I think the original Naruto is better than Naruto Shippuden. Not because it wasn't maybe as cool, because Naruto Shippuden is obviously later on in the story, so a lot of the core things are going to happen later on. But I think, you know, as a whole, the universe of Naruto, how it looked, everything looked, and how, you know, its storytelling was going, I think it was probably the best during the original, to be honest. And yeah, this is a fighting game around this, and I think I would say there's also more freedom in this game than in the sequels of the Storm games, which in some ways, the way they made it wasn't as good, but in other ways, you know, it did provide more freedom and kind of a choice of, do you want to do these side quests and the blah blah blah, rather than just walk over there, walk over there, walk over there, walk over there to do the main quest, which is basically what you're doing in the follow-up games, right? Whereas with this, you have a little bit more freedom on what you can do, and I think that was really fun. So yeah, Naruto Storm. As a 3D fighter, maybe not the craziest thing, but you know, 3D fighters usually aren't that good. You know, Sparking Zero kind of an exception, right? Being a bit better than what you usually have for 3D fighters, but no, this was very nostalgic for me, and I was a big fan of Naruto as well. So there you go. Next up is Call of Duty World at War is what I have on here for my Call of Duty game. It's my one Call of Duty game that I have. And yeah, this was the one I played the most. I remember the first level being very nostalgic, but especially that second level really speaks out to me. Yeah, had a lot of fun playing this game. Didn't really play many other COD games, to be honest with you. After I played this, I wouldn't say I had enough, but there wasn't really much more that I needed or I was really looking for. After that, it was just, you know, I would compare everything to this game, and not saying that this game was better than the other ones I was playing, but I kind of fulfilled, you know, my my urge, I guess, with Call of Duty, and you know, World at War did that for me. Done that for me, I guess. So yeah, still enjoyed it. Very, very fun. So yeah, I definitely look at this game back very fondly. Also introduced the zombies mode, I believe, so that's cool as well. Next up, very boring pick. But yeah, this one, 2009, I played this one a fair bit. I only actually finished the game in the normal sense, you know, doing the fighting the Ender Dragon or whatever, once, and even then it was also co-op with my brother, I believe, so it wasn't really I didn't complete it all in a traditional sense, but definitely had a lot of fun, played on a lot of servers, did a lot of mini games, you know, had my own plots, created my own stuff. Yeah, just very fun stuff, right? Even though I was never really hardcore by any means, you know, I compared to people that I know, I never played it as much or as passionately as they did, but it's one of those games where it's such like a legendary game with so much you could do with it. Yeah, again, talk about the freedom, right? There were so many options. You could play this game in so many more ways than just go into a single player game, and even then, in a single player game, you had a lot of choice on what you could do. And had a very simple style, and the music as well, although incredible, was also simple, which I really liked. They had really incredible simple music, and yeah, a lot about it was just simple but good. And the freedom you had with the mod packs, with the servers you could go on to, with the building very good, right? When you look at your LEGO Universe, for example, you also had a building function where you could have your own plot and build stuff. But the building system just wasn't really good, to be honest. The actual core gameplay was a lot better, to be honest. But when you then look at Minecraft, that building system was just, you know, it was tiers above, right? And that's really what set it apart from the building aspect. And so it covers so many bases. Minecraft, it doesn't just excel at one thing, right? Which is what makes it such a versatile game. It's not necessarily the best game in the world or of all time at one thing, right? It's just so immensely versatile, and that's how it's ended up on my list. Even though I consider it a bit of a boring pick, if you will, and I certainly don't look at it the same way as like a Lego Universe or even the Pokemon games. But I played it a lot and had a fun time playing, so I can't not put it on here. It has to make it. Love it. Alright, next up, again 2009, is Bakugan Battle Brawlers. I really enjoyed the show Bakugan Battle Brawlers. You know, you had the little elemental system, much similar to Pokemon, but definitely, you know, at least initially, right, when compared to Pokemon, had a lot more stakes behind it, a little bit more of a mature style of creatures, I would say, in comparison to Pokemon. You could say it's a little bit of a middle ground between Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, though Yu-Gi-Oh is a bit more of a strategic card game as well, a little bit different there. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the whole ball function where it would turn into a thing, right? And this was just a game on it, which I think was a pretty good game. Created its own Bakugan as well in the game, which is pretty cool, unique to the game. You couldn't find it in the anime, for example, or in real life maybe. Maybe there was some exclusive work done on it, I'm not sure. But yeah, it had its own story mode and everything like that, and you can kind of immerse yourself into the world yourself. And that was pretty cool, right? So I'm gonna include that as well, since I enjoyed the anime quite a bit when I was younger. So immersing myself into that style was very fun. Then I have a racing game.
If my velocity starts to make you sweat, then just don't let go. And if the heaven ain't got a vacancy, then we just get up and go.
Gran Turismo 5. Yes, we'll do this one. Gran Turismo 5 on the PS3 as well. Again, this was actually a bit of more of a middle ground between arcade and simulator. So when you compare it to, for example, Forza Horizon, this is a much more accurate representation of racing and stuff, but not as accurate as proper simulator games, right? Like, I'm thinking maybe Assetto Corsa, though I never played that one, but I heard that one was probably pretty accurate, or whatnot. So it's not as accurate as that, but it's, you know, a pretty good middle ground if you want to get into more sim-like racing games that are more accurate. You know, unlike Need for Speed. I mean, that's the pinnacle of arcadey racing games. But yeah, this was more of a middle ground, and in this one you had a little bit more of like an individual career, where you would, it wasn't really much of a story mode, but you had your own dashboard and everything, and you would start as a rookie, right, with not a lot of money, had to get your first car, and then slowly winning races, you know, rise up in the ranks and become more of a good racer, with a lot of challenging modes and whatnot included in the game. So yeah, this is, I really enjoyed this kind of rising up in the ranks, kind of immersive in that sense. Not really having a story, but you had a sense of progression in that game, which was nice. And yeah, played that probably the most out of any racing game. So I feel like this had to be like the racing game on my list, right? Next up, 2011.
There's a magical world called Skylands, home to the Skylanders. For generations, they protected Skylands and its magical core, until a new face of evil arrived and banished them to Earth, tiny and frozen.
The first one I'm gonna put here, but I played Giants as well quite a lot. I can't even find the first. There we go. Yes, Skylanders Spyro's Adventure. Again, a lot of elements involved. Really nice. You had a lot of figurines that you would buy, right, and then put them on a portal, and then the figurine would appear in the game. That's how this game worked, and it really pioneered that kind of idea, or at least it was the first one that got really popular with that concept. And boy, was it successful. And yeah, the way it worked as well, like, you could upgrade your Skylander and it would have different paths, so it really added like individualism to your figure that you owned, because you knew that another figure would have a different path and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was really cool. Really cool. Kept me invested for quite a while, considering I played Giants as well and played that one a lot too. So yeah, that was a really fun game. Really fun game. Just an RPG like, you know, story mode game. That kind of stuff. All right, next up will be Bloons TD5. I played a lot of Flash games when I was growing up. So I feel like, you know, this one is probably the main one that I would, you know, include, the best one. You know, Bloons TD6 wasn't really a Flash game anymore. Later versions of Bloons TD5 would also not be a Flash game because you could get it on Steam and it would be a little bit more of a proper version. But on the website itself, it had an older version of Bloons TD5, and that's the one that I played the most. You know, tower defense games. I played a lot of tower defense games in my time, and this is probably the one that stood out the most. So Bloons TD5 is probably, you know, the best one to choose for my history. All right, next up is Game Dev Tycoon, a game where you could create your own games and you know, improve as a developer, as a company, making games as well throughout the game, and you know, start in an era where you didn't even have the NES on the market, you know, and then go throughout time where you have the PS3 and all that kind of stuff. So that was really fun. From looking into consoles, from all the consoles that you have in the game, to how the game creation worked, and just thinking of your own games. It was really fun figuring out what kind of combinations work inside the game and which don't, all that stuff. Really fun, improving, you know, your company and whatever. It was really fun. I really had a fun time with this, just because I had a lot of choice, you know, what would happen, because there's a lot of ways you can play this game. Where, you know, you fail or whatever, but you can definitely succeed in a lot of different ways and all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't like one set way, you can only win by doing this or whatever. So yeah, it was fun trying to be creative in this game, and I always liked games, right? So I liked imagining what kind of game I would make. So yeah, there you go. Next up is
The Tenno. Monuments of an ancient warrior caste. Scattered across frail worlds. Warframe. Warframe, a looter shooter, the only looter shooter on here. This game came out in 2013. If I didn't say Bloons 2011, Skylanders 2011, and Game Dev Tycoon 2012.
Warframe, a looter shooter, a sci-fi game. I really liked sci-fi. You know, I liked Star Wars and all that stuff. So, always been a big fan of sci-fi. And Warframe was just an extension of that. There's also kind of a ninja sense as well with the characters, which I always enjoyed. You know, I liked, you know, Naruto, right? It was just a lot about ninjas. I like Japanese culture. Not all of it, but the cooler side of it I really liked. And this was a, you know, extension of that. Of course, I don't like the grindy part of it. I really like the story about it. You know, the lore initially it wasn't really explored that deeply, or not. It's not really put in your face when you're playing the game. But later on, they made a lot of great story arcs in the game that you can play. And when I am playing those, that's when I really enjoy the game. And the music as well is really good. Some of the best music you'll ever see in gaming. So you're definitely up there. So yeah. That's why it's up there, because it's a you know, a grindy looter shooter. I have massive breaks in between playing this game, but if I look all time, it still makes the list for me. Next up,
We'll leave this place and collect more power, and there we can regroup and try again. You are truly my greatest masterpiece.
A dark venom courses through the veins of the Dragon Ball world and opens a dangerous rift in time and space. As the power intensifies, the past is rewritten.
Give me a strong ally, someone with the kind of power to help me defend time itself. This wish I ask of you, Shenron.
Your wish is granted.
2015 this game was released, is Dragon Ball Xenoverse. I'm gonna say the first one because the second one is kind of similar and probably a bit of a slight upgrade in most areas maybe, but the first one is the one that I really got hyped for. I really liked, like I said, you know, being able to choose things in the game, right? And in this game you could create your own character, your own Dragon Ball character. You could choose from multiple races and choose a bunch of accessories and all that kind of stuff, your own your own power-ups, your own attacks, so your own ultimates, right? So all that kind of stuff really intrigued me when I was younger, and this game allowed me to do that. So I thought that was really epic. I think it had a nice look as well, a nice look to the game, and a pretty good way of going through the story in an alternative way. So yeah, I think it was a really cool game, really cool. And then the last one, pretty obvious for a lot of people. I gotta put this one in here.
And it's almost there. Justin keeps it alive. Turbo wasn't there. Bounces into the corner. Energy still around. Justin is there for the shot. Justin! Justin! This is Rocket League!
Rocket League. I enjoy this game a lot. I've got like thousands of hours into it, 6,000 by now, which is quite a lot, right? That's a lot of hours over time. I've had a lot of periods where I haven't really enjoyed this game, and I played this game out of habit or, you know, in my head necessity, even though, you know, I wouldn't really know what to do instead type thing, right? Or I had a feeling to uphold a certain status or whatever. But when I look back as a whole, when I was improving quickly and all that stuff, I really enjoyed the game. And now, during a time when I'm playing the game in a lot more healthy way, you know, just playing to what I enjoy and that kind of stuff, and not too fussed about, you know, everything around it. I think it's a pretty cool game. I love how, you know, what an even playing field this game is. You constantly the same map, the same amount of teammates at an esports level, right? At the esports level, it's always 3v3, and yeah, I think it's a great esports game, kid-friendly as well. So yeah, I think it's really good. And now I prefer kind of like looking, not really studying properly, but like looking into the game, forming an ideology on how you should play, learning a little bit here and there from pro players, right? Watching their RCS games. And even though I'm not playing as much anymore, you know, that aspect of it I still enjoy. Even though, you know, Epic has been kind of ruining the esport and the game itself for the last couple of years probably by now. But yeah, I still think, you know, it's great physics engine as well. I mean, compared to FIFA, this game is you know, leagues above, right? With a great scale ceiling that is really hard to match, very mechanically based game. And yeah, I mean, I am still happy with what I did in the game, right? I never really had the aim to be a pro player or anything like that. And you know, still being able to play, you know, in a Benelux competition where we qualified for LAN, that LAN being in Luxembourg, so you know, Benelux, but also Luxembourg competition mainly. So yeah, qualifying for that, playing at a LAN, for a lot of people, they're not going to be able to do that. So to do that myself and enjoy that experience definitely was fun for me. Like, it meant something, right? So yeah, I'm happy with what I did in the game, even though I never quite got SSL, right? I never got Supersonic Legend, not on my own, anyways. So yeah, yeah, there is my list, my five favorite games of all time list. Favorite game probably would go to LEGO Universe, as I mentioned earlier on in the video. Also, if you want to, we could talk about your favorite games as well. What's your 5x5? Or maybe if you don't want to mention that many titles, just let me know some of your favorites, right? I'm happy to talk about it in the comments, see what some of our favorite games are. And yeah, I'll see you later.